In episode 168 of the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, we'll be talking with Dr. Tara Allmen. Dr. Allmen shares some great advice in her book, Menopause Confidential, that's beneficial for both men and women. The show notes for this episode can be found at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/168. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. In November, we're doing the squat challenge at 40 Plus Fitness. Are you in? There will be 3 tracks, beginner, immediate, and advanced. Let's squat our way through November. Sign up at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/squat. The last day to join is October 29th. Who knew talking menopause and colonoscopies could be so much fun? That's Dr. Allmen, part educator, part comedian, but all expert in women's health. Here's Dr. Allmen. So Dr. Allmen, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
You know, I've read a few books now on menopause, even though I know it's something that doesn't directly affect my body. It will affect my wife. It'll affect other women in my life. And so the more I know about their health, I think the more sanity I can keep in my life as I deal with that, help them through that process. So but one thing I really liked about your book was it was actually funny. I mean, it was actually just a fun read. It wasn't one of these medical, all this other stuff. I mean, that was in there, but you just presented it in a very fun way, and I really appreciated that.
Well, by the way, menopause will affect your life directly. If the women in your life are not happy and healthy, you will not be happy and healthy either.
I completely get that. And the quote you had in there is, I must say it, but basically there's 2 people, there's one person in marriage is always right and the other is the husband. Yeah, that's a living truth, which is why it's so funny.
I want your listeners and all of them to know that there's so much information out there on midlife. Midlife really starts at 40 and it'll do us part. Women like to say, I'm all done with that menopause. And I like to remind them that we're never all done with that menopause until we're all done. So it really is about 30 to 40 years of our lives spent in this part of a woman's cycle. And there's a lot of changes that occurs. First, the symptoms for many of us, but then the bigger picture of heart health and bone health and brain health and sexual health. So there's a lot to learn. And I appreciate that you laughed as you learned, as you read Menopause Confidential. It was my intention to write in a way that was accessible and humorous, so the information got to where it needed to go easily.
Yeah, and like I said, it was very well done, and I appreciated that bit of you that, it's kind of, you could feel your personality, and obviously you shared a good bit of your story in there, which was also very helpful. So I want to go back and you made in one of the chapters, you talked about how you'll be at a dinner party and someone will ask what you do, and you tell them you're a gynecologist, and that kind of stops that part of the conversation. I can tell you from my past, being an accountant, that's how I actually do it. If I say I'm an accountant at a conversation at a dinner party or a cocktail party, it does the same thing. So I've definitely experienced that where, I'll just say I'm an accountant, and they're like, oh, well, do you like football? And it's like, yeah, let's go talk about football.
And to tell you the truth, that response only comes from men. You're referencing the chapter that I have called Every Man Needs a Gynecologist. So for all of your men listeners, I can't wait for you to read that. But you're right. When I say to a man that I'm a gynecologist, there's no good comeback for a man. Women are very intrigued and have lots of questions, but the men folks just look at their shoes.
And I think that's a lost opportunity, particularly if they know that there's women in their lives that, are going through different things. And again, at our age, being over 40, they are. So it's a good time for them to, pick your brain just like the women would. And so that's what I want to do today. Obviously we know that as we kind of get into this age, as women kind of get into this age, these changes affect them more than just from a hormone perspective. And you do get into that, into the hormone therapies and the different therapies that they can do. But there's other aspects of health that I think are very important for women at that age that are either related to menopause or not. And one of them I really like, this is my favorite topic. I would talk about this every episode if I could, which is sleep. I love my sleep. But what I know is through this reading and through experience, women really struggle with sleep from time to time. And there's maybe not so much as you said, a linkage between the what's going on with their bodies with the hot flashes and all that and sleep, but there are some things that they need to consider. So could you kind of talk us through sleep at that age and what women can do to sleep better?
Yes, that's a very big complaint for the menopausal gal, fractured sleep, perimenopause too. Perimenopausal women, just by definition, so you know, they're still having menstrual cycles, but the cycles are changing. They're skipping some, they're having them more frequently, they're changing. And they're in a major hormonal chaotic fluctuation period. That disrupts sleep. Menopausal women are no longer making estrogen. Their ovaries have retired. And without the estrogen, that disrupts sleep. So sleep is a major problem. And if you don't get a good night's sleep, as you suggest, well, you're going to wake up fatigued, and your brain won't work as well. You won't be as focused, and you'll be irritable. It'll change mood. So it is inevitable for women as we age to have issues with sleep. We won't spend enough time in deep sleep. We won't spend enough time in restorative sleep. You can put your head on the pillow and 8 hours later take your head off the pillow and you'll feel exhausted. So it is a very important issue. It's a major health issue. And when you read the chapter called There's No Rest for the Weary, not only will it explain why those changes are occurring, both in perimenopause and menopause, but what strategies we can all do to help preserve and protect sleep.
And you had some tips on how to get better sleep. I mean, beyond, like I said, the therapies and things that you might be going through to kind of help some of the symptoms of this. But could you go through some of the tips you have for getting better sleep?
Well, there are some common sense tips, right? So what you're asking is, besides the use of hormone therapy for the treatment of menopausal symptoms, hot flashes and night sweats, those disrupt sleep. But for women who choose not to use any other prescription therapies for symptoms and want to have improvement of their sleep, the basics are still the basics, where we have to honor sleep and we have to get into a routine for sleep. So that means we have to get to bed every night at the same time, whether it's Monday night or Saturday night. And we have to reduce stimulants that disrupt sleep, like scary novels and delicious wine and chocolate and caffeine and heavy meals right before bed. Everything has to be, the room where you'll sleep, the bedroom has to be cool and dark and comfortable. There can be no smartphone charging at your bedside. It's a new era that we all, right? We can't leave our smartphones for a minute, not even at nighttime. So everything has to be prepared, it's all beautifully listed, all the natural things that you can do. Women tried melatonin. Okay, maybe that works some of the time for some of the women, but the best thing we can do is eat healthily, exercise regularly, and get into a good sleep habits pattern every single day of the week. Otherwise, we are going to have disrupted sleep. What I like to say to all women really is, it's hard if you have children, if you have a husband who snores, if you have pets. Those factors are working against you and your good night's sleep. But you can't do much about them.
But there are, again, most of the things you talked about, having a ritual, getting away from the screens and the tech, finding ways to relax, making sure that, you're not taking in the wrong foods or too much food at the wrong time. And, I always encourage my clients, I said, just journal all this stuff, write down what you ate, when you ate it, what you did, and then how'd you sleep? How do you feel when you wake up? And, with that journaling, you're collecting the data that tells you whether you're on track or not. Because I know some people, they're going to want to stay up later and they're fine with that, they only need 6 hours maybe. There are other people like me that do need the full 8. And so my wife gets very frustrated with me because I'm that early morning person that, I'll go ahead and 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'm done. I'm going to bed. And she's like, what? You're going to bed? And every night it's the same thing. She's surprised I'm going to bed, but it's every night at 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'm in bed. And then I'm waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning just feeling great. But that's just my wiring. And so I do appreciate, and I think, again, go ahead and document what you're doing as you're trying to sleep. And if you're not getting good sleep, try tweaking some of these things. Try adding some of these things that Dr. Allmen's talking about, because that's going to give you what you need to understand your sleep habits and what you need to do to get the rest you need. Because it really is, there's so many linkages to lack of sleep and obesity and other health issues that it's just, again, that's why sleep is such a favorite topic to me, because I can do everything for you in the gym for 3 hours a week, 3 to 5 hours a week, but that other hours that you're spending doing other things are really going to have a much bigger impact on your health. But I like that you said workout, Dr. Allmen, because that's good too. And we'll get to that. Now, there was a chapter. It actually, I didn't think it would be one of my favorite chapters as we were kind of getting into it, but you actually made it quite interesting. And we were talking about colon health and getting your first colonoscopy.
Hooray for colonoscopy! Hooray for colonoscopy!
and I could sense reading that chapter. I said, this is a very, very type A woman who wanted to be top of the class in everything she does. So could you tell us a little bit about your story? Because it was kind of interesting.
Well, in my defense to your listeners, you want your physician to be very diligent and follow up. And so I consider those of us who are type A, we choose specialties in life that suit that kind of extra attention to detail. So when it was my turn, I'm a 51 3/4-year-old girl now. When I turned 50, it was time for baseline colonoscopy, as it is for all regular risk people. You don't get it sooner than 50. And I was given a prescription like all of you get from your gastroenterologist. And I looked at my prescription and I thought differently than the gastroenterologist. I thought I can tweak this recipe better, make it a comfortable, efficient day. This, for those of you who have yet to have your colonoscopy, there's the day before the colonoscopy where you have to do a prep to make the colon squeaky clean so your gastroenterologist can go on a treasure hunt and look for anything that doesn't belong in the colon. So I feel like Hooray for Colonoscopy is a gift to both men and women, since we all have to have baseline colonoscopies. It's a terrific screening test for colon cancer. It's only every 10 years. And now I have made the bowel prep the day before the most wonderful day of the year. You can't wait to have you. You won't wait.
Just like Christmas.
You won't be able to wait. Really, you don't have to fear colonoscopy anymore. You'll have a great day before experience, and then you'll get an A+ on your squeaky clean colon. So that is why all people should be reading Hooray for Colonoscopy.
And I do, again, yeah, it is good because you kind of give us the recipe, so to speak, of what you did in this prep ritual. And so, and it does, when I was reading, I was like, that does sound like that would not be nearly as bad as what I've heard and seen of folks going through, because my wife has had one already and I'm due for one. So yes, I will be going in soon to make that appointment.
Are you going to use the secret recipe, Alan, now that you know it?
You called me on it. I will give it a shot. I'll show it to my doctor first and say, this is what I'd rather do. Because, again, you in your healthcare, I think you need to work with you're a doctor. So you obviously, you can do what you want to do.
I work with myself.
Yes. So you did consult a doctor. I'm not a doctor, but I would consult with my doctor to say, if I try this approach, are you comfortable that I'm going to be in the condition I need to be in? And then let her know that that's what I'm doing. And if she's comfortable with it, then
that's fine. But I'm giving you my 100% guarantee, since I've now given the secret recipe out to all of my patients. I can't tell you what success they've all had. They are emailing me, thank you so much. It was so easy. It was so comfortable. And I got an A+ on party day. You do what you want.
I will, and I will follow your approach. But again, consulting my doctor, and then follow your approach, because I'm sure they won't have any difficulty with it. And then I guess enjoy my colon day and colon day -1. Yeah,
enjoy the whole thing.
Okay. Now, obviously, I'm a personal trainer, and so weightlifting is something that I'm always encouraging people to do, particularly women, because I know that most women seem to shy away from the weightlifting. There's a lot of myths for them, and then there's a lot of intimidation for women. When I talk about weight training, I actually prefer, I use the word occasionally, but I prefer the word resistance training, only because it kind of takes the fact that you would have to be doing dumbbells and barbells and all those other pieces of equipment. You can actually do this training just with body weight in many cases and get some of the same results if you work hard to make it difficult enough for yourself. But could you take us through some of the benefits that they would get with weightlifting and kind of some of your prescriptions of what you think they should be doing?
Well, here's what I say. This is all based on science. It's not my opinion. In fact, the entire book is evidence-based. I want all your listeners to know that when I wrote Menopause Confidential, it was I want the most up-to-date guidelines on all the topics that I cover. As it pertains to exercise, the guidelines are based on the American Heart Association's guidelines for the reduction of heart disease. So that's very important. There's a different criteria for that. But for strength training, and if I use the word resistance training, as I hear it from you, I feel resistance, but I don't want to go to train. I just make a different. I feel I get a different association.
Anything worth having is worth working for. So yeah, if you're going to get some resistance, you're going to get some benefit. That's again, I'm a type A like that. So I kind of look at it and say, give me a challenge because I'm going to beat it and then come back tomorrow and ask for more.
I really want midlife women to know that the important part of this equation is that we have to continue to improve our muscle strength because we lose muscle as we age. And as a result of that, we're redistributing fat right into our middle, which most of us are annoyed by. And the way to help improve that redistribution of fat and to improve muscle strength is with strength training. There is no formal scientific recommendation, but there are guidelines, and I write them in the book. I think the chapter is, do I really have to lift weights too? And yeah, you do, but they're not heavy weights for the midlife crowd. They're lighter weights because we don't want injury, because the minute we have an injury, there goes our ability to exercise at all. So I recommend for women 5 to 10 pounds of light weights, nothing crazy. And the recommendation is to add the strength training in twice a week for 30 minutes. It's something that we can all do. I do it by carrying light weights on the treadmill as I'm walking briskly while listening to disco tunes or watching television. I'm trying to get all my recommendations for heart health. It's 30 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise, 30 minutes, 5 days a week. So while I'm getting my 30 minutes of brisk walking on the treadmill while listening to my disco tunes, I'm also carrying my light weights on and off to help. So if we have to make it easy for midlife women, we're very, very busy, most of us, and however we can incorporate those issues to improve bone density, improve muscle mass. But here's a secret tip for your listeners. They also have to spend time doing balance training, because it's balance training, as it turns out, that reduces the risk of us falling down. And it's falling down, as it turns out, that increases the risk of fracturing a bone. So best advice to women in midlife is do not fall down. And how do you do that? You start with balance training, as something as simple as standing on one leg for as long as you can. I call it the stork position. You can rest your other leg on the first leg. Go look at a picture of a stork and see how they balance. And you do it near a wall. So if you feel a little topply, you can hang on to the wall as you topple in. But the idea is to stand on one leg without holding on to the wall. And then you switch legs. And if you can do that, for 10 minutes, a few days a week, that improves. Scientifically, that is the only thing at the moment that we can rest our head on that will help us. Balance training in midlife. It's a new concept for women to improve risk of not falling down and fracturing.
And I would add to that I think it's important for folks to do this barefooted.
Oh, for sure. Definitely not in high heels.
Yeah. Well, definitely not in high heels. I mean, that's a balancing act all on its own. But when you're barefoot, it's a different sensation than when you're in a shoe. And you have to use the muscles in your feet a little bit more to provide a little bit of that balance training. You get more benefit from it being barefoot. So yeah, obviously we don't want to fall down. The strength training is going to strengthen the bones in addition to the muscle, which is, kind of that double benefit of doing the strength training. And then, of course, so you have stronger bones. If you do happen to fall, you're going to be in better position. Plus you'll have the muscle density to actually protect your bones a little bit more. So all that kind of works. And then, of course, just avoiding the fall in the first place is paramount.
Best advice I could give to women: if there's a snowstorm, don't go outside. Stay in. People fall down in the big snowstorm. Stay inside.
Yeah. I live down in Louisiana, so we don't get a ton of snow, but we do get ice. And so, yeah, just being aware of your surroundings, yes, is huge. So, Dr. Allmen, again, I just really enjoyed the book and just kind of your personality that came out in it. The disco tunes that you talked about earlier. You had a disco party for your 50th birthday party, and you use that same playlist now as your exercise motivation. So again, that's, like I said, just fun. Menopause doesn't seem like it would be a fun time. And, most of the books that I've read on this were not nearly as entertaining and just joy to read. So I do appreciate the time and effort that you put into kind of making this a absorbable. And like you said, all these major studies that kind of impact women's health, you've actually got them in the book. So this is not just fun, let's party, have a colonoscopy, let's lift some weights and go. It literally is the science, and you have that in there as well to kind of make sure that people are based and grounded in what's real and not just opinion.
I think of Menopause Confidential as the busy woman's guide to midlife women's health. It is everything women need to know. From head to toe, we also cover skin health and hair health. And when I say we, I mean me. I wrote this book. So everything gets covered, the changes that occur, why they occur, and what solutions are available. It's all based in science, and it's all written in my humorous voice. You just can't help it if you're funny. If you're funny, you're funny.
Well, again, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, where would you have me send them?
They should go right to drallmen.com. DR for Dr. ALLMEN.com. Isn't that funny? My name is Allmen, but I take care of all women. Okay, well, this is going to be episode 168. So you can find the show notes for this, and I'll have all the links to the book and to her site at the show notes. And that'll be at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/168. So again, Dr. Allmen, thank you so much for coming on 40 Plus Fitness. Thank you very much, Allmen. Squat, baby, squat. November is all about my favorite exercise, the squat. Join the 30-day squat challenge at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/squat. Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, I'll share my best nutrition tips. Until then, have a happy and healthy day.